Hi everybody, I'm Gooso Milkarella!
And I'm Lucifer Valentine. Anyone feeling nauseous? I've got a bucket.
And we're here to bring you another corruption of media.
Hell yeah. Lost episode creepypastas are dead, and we're here to fill the void, baby.
Exactly. We realized that there wasn't enough disturbing content out there after we made all the disturbing movies in the iceberg wholesome, so we decided to take some of the most wholesome, cute girls anime and instead corrupt them with the help of our good friend, Lucifer Valentine.
Okay, I'm going to stop calling myself that now in case he sues me, because I've heard that Lucifer Valentine is actually a very serious, litigious fella.
I do know that he is fond of sewage. Wink.
Off to a good start. Gus has collected a bunch of the cutesiest cute girl animes he can find because he's fucking weeb trash, and he's bringing it here to me, Henry the Corruptor, a man who, contrary to what angry commenters on our videos have said, has made thousands of dollars on horror stories, bitches. So today we're gonna put my skills to the test.
This is a man who has frightened me with his writing several times. He's an expert in the field, and I can't wait for him to take some of the shows that I love and some shows that, I've heard of and I've heard they're pretty good, and put images and thoughts into my head that I can never get out.
Plus, to quickly give a certain Guso-y devil his due, Gus did a phenomenal job making all of the, just the scum of the earth movie-wise. Things that, honestly, it is strikingly generous to call films. Gus did a phenomenal job taking those titles and, spinning gold out of Guso. I'm gonna have to see if I can be anywhere near as creative in, spooky-fied. Oh, do you know what I'm gonna do? While we're recording, Gus?
What?
I'm gonna turn the light off in this room.
Whoa,
so I'm only
get all
illuminated by the
spooky in there.
Gonna get proper spooky. Alright, a sec.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm in darkness.
His power grows in the darkness.
Yeah, to give people an idea of the kind of room I'm in, where I'm at, in the little recording station, right behind me there is a window with an elevated platform that in theory, if someone climbed up the side, they could stand on. I always imagine, sometimes when I'm here at night, talking to Gus or walking or whatever, I'll turn around and I'll just see two hands and just a grinning face pressed up against the window, and the last thing I'll ever hear is glass shattering.
Oh, see, hear that, folks? That's how this guy's mind works. He knows.
I'm a deeply paranoid individual.
He set the stage. So, just like in the last one, in this one, I'm going to be saying the titles. Henry's going to be doing a new spin on them from cute to corrupt. And if you in the comments have alternative horrific ideas for how to do these titles, hopefully ones that YouTube's not just going to automatically delete off the platform.
Yeah, keep it clean, folks.
Yeah. Because I want to see them,
We're going to try and do, actual horror, scary, rather than, just repulsive. We're gonna try and avoid the fetus munchers and the porn gores here as much as we can.
Yeah. It's not gonna be necessarily going for disturbing, but certainly for the horror genre.
Yeah, you're gonna know that I've started, running out of steam when I'm turning these things into vomit enema porn 3 or whatever.
Oh, careful, you almost got sued.
Oh yeah, Lucifer Valentine in the corner with his lawyers, who are all literally sculptures made of shit and puke.
His lawyers, the Malabranque.
Yeah. Alright, let's get into this.
Alright, so I'm gonna pitch you an easy one.
Okay.
Squid Girl.
Okay, so this is the story of a mad scientist who fundamentally believes that, women, because he's a bit of a misogynist, would be better if combined with aspects of Squid. He's really into hentai. I said I wouldn't get repulsive, and immediately here we are. He's really into hentai, and he's for me, the perfect woman is someone fused with a squid, because he's got this, big tank with, a squid in it. That is his pet, that he calls Margaret. His plan is to take one of the students at the medical school he works at, surgically remove her head, and graft the squid onto it to be his kind of Cthulhu-esque bride. and that's Squid Girl.
Yeah, okay, so it's in like the same wheelhouse as something like Tusk or the Human Centipede.
Yeah, like kind of like scientific body horror that also has a point to make about kind of toxic perceptions of women as like objects or property.
Yeah, I see that. Next up, Flying Witch.
Flying Witch. Okay, okay. See, what's interesting about this one is, due to the kind of universality of witches as a concept, this could either be horror for younger audiences. Like, on one hand, it could be a more sort of like less is more George Romero has done for like Nightmare Before Christmas thing, where we're following this flying witch in her kind of spooky little world full of like monsters and strange creatures. But she is in 1500s England. And as a result, while you may think that the kind of the witch would be the main villain of this, it's actually the incredibly kind of prejudicial and violent religious authorities that are murdering witches. And this flying witch is trying to escape a society that wants to murder her if they ever find out who she truly is.
Oh, that's an interesting twist. And like, church bad guys are usually really effective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so fascinated by the historical figure of Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General. He is a monstrous dude, and I've always wanted to do a villain based on him, because I don't know if you knew this, but whenever he had someone tried and killed as a witch, part of his prize as a Witchfinder General is all of their legal possessions became his.
Wow. That's so corrupt, actually.
He was this immensely, like, greedy monster who would have people killed just so he could have their stuff, effectively. And I feel like this Matthew Hopkins-esque guy has already murdered the Flying Witch's family, and in this case, flying kind of as a kind of metaphor for, like, on the run. Like, she's flying, she's running, she's trying to get away from just this ruthless, like, corrupt psychopath who was already almost wiped out her kind and now wants her.
Yeah, so it's sort of like The Shape of Water, almost.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, stories of these kinds of paranoia and prejudice, the kind of, the classic, like Arthur Miller's The Crucible, they are sadly timeless due to, darker sides of human natures and tendencies to form in-groups and out-groups. The desire to kind of find and crush smaller out-groups to, I guess, galvanize the in-group. And that's something that's inherently disturbing, and I think especially in our era of, like, social horror, the kind of Jordan Peele, well, I guess post-Jordan Peele era, it feels the right time to kind of have, like, The Witch meets The Shape of Water.
I think that sounds very interesting. So the next one is Glass Lip. Bit of a lesser known one.
Ooh, Glass Lip.
Yeah.
Okay, so Glass Lip, immediately I think like loose lips, sink ships, like things that shouldn't be spoken about. Glass, you think kind of fragility, delicateness. Alright, so a group of friends in a sort of I know what you did last summer style, all are sharing a terrible secret, and the guilt is weighing down on them. And it's this extent that, like, having this secret has ruined their lives. Like, whatever they did in the past, just, they can't stop thinking about it. And they find that the only way to find catharsis, this sense of freedom, is to speak about it, is to tell someone. But the second they've shared the secret, soon after they die. And then whoever was told the secret, if they pass it on, they die too. It's almost like an infectious secret that kills you the second you spread it. But naturally, people keep spreading it because when someone mysteriously dies and you're the last person to speak to them, what do people ask you? Well, what was the last thing they said to you?
Ooh, man. And like the posters would like really emphasize like the lips of the characters, like there's definitely like a finger over the mouth of people, like.
Yes, definitely, with perhaps like glass on one side but human on the other, because the metaphor of glass lips is that the second they move, they shatter.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Nice.
I'm impressed with myself, I'll admit.
Hey, all right. I think that makes it worth for everyone in the audience who remembers Glass Lip.
as we said last time, if any of these ideas really strike a chord with you, go make something inspired by it. You know,
definitely.
obviously, we'd very much appreciate a bit of credit in it, but if you go and make a really cool fucking thing from it, hell yeah, we support that. Show it to us. If we like it, we'll fucking promote it.
Yeah, and because we talked just like briefly about the visuals for that one, we also accept fan art. We love like fan art of these ideas.
Yeah, no, of course, people who do that, you're phenomenal, and we'll either share your stuff in a video or in a community post with like links to your social media. Of course. Artists deserve all the credit and all the respect. Alright. Hit me with the next one.
Gotcha. So, with some of these, I've decided to translate the Japanese name because the meaning is pretty simple and it's just they're usually referred to by their Japanese name. So this one is generally called Nichijou, but it translates to My Ordinary Life.
Immediately, I'm thinking someone who has to keep up some kind of facade. Because to say My Ordinary Life, it's almost as if, like, thou doth protest too much. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
This is someone who is not who they say they are, but they insist on normality. Oh, fuck, alright. This is a weird jump, but this is someone who was stuck in a rut. They were kind of middle-aged, married, 2 kids. Don't know what gender they are, but, like, they're someone who felt like they were just in the daily grind forever. The rat race, a shitty 9-to-5 job, a quote-unquote ordinary life under capitalism. Until one day, they snap. And in a moment of weakness, like almost in a fugue state, they kill their entire family. And when they come out of the fugue, they're like, oh god, oh, this is horrible, I have to turn myself in. But then they're like, wait, what if instead I try to not make their deaths in vain, and I go and try to live like a nice free life? I bury them all in the yard and skip town without telling everybody. I try and like reclaim my youth, a kind of midlife crisis almost, but the spectres of the family that this person killed keep appearing no matter how much they try to keep this new ordinary life that they have, because they've realized essentially that they thought the grass would be greener, but it isn't. Like, that what was once exciting has now become dull, because they're just the kind of person for whom, like, sameness of any kind slowly wears out, and it's at that point that the spectres of their family begin to return, and they don't know whether this is just their mind fracturing under the weight of the guilt, or something altogether more sinister and tangible coming back for revenge.
Interesting. Yeah, I could definitely see that as a film.
I want to say, for the record, these are a lot less kind of logline-y than Gus's, but I think the thing about horror is that sometimes you need kind of the setup and the payoff to really have it hit as hard.
Yeah, your format is more telling like short horror stories, you know? Like, so there's the setup for the scare, and then there's the scare itself. And there's like a few different layers and a few different ways of getting to that. You don't always know what the horror is from just like a description.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, to quote H.P. Lovecraft, who, yes, obviously, very racist dude,
Yeah.
but undeniably incredibly influential in horror, the oldest emotion known to mankind is fear, and the oldest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. Which is why sometimes going in with an essence of mystery as to what the threat even is can, be a factor.
Alright, so for this next one, I'm going to give you an old classic, Ouran High School Host Club.
I imagine you know where I'm going with this.
I'd expect nothing less.
It's obvious, but I'm going to have fun with it. We're going to go in there. This is a club in high school of kind of preppy teenage necromancers. In order to... You know those people who in high school, they're just obsessed with like, oh, I have to be great here. I have to get into the best college. I have to make sure my like grade point average and my SATs are perfect. I have to be involved in all the extracurricular stuff because I want to have a successful life later on. These people are that, but instead of all those other things, they're like, okay, while I'm in high school, I need to make all my deals with devils now to ensure that I have future success. So it's this club of preppy kind of conjurers inducting different unknowing people into their host club and hereditary style selling them off as hosts to the highest demon bidder in exchange for goodies. And our protagonist is someone who realizes they're about to be a victim of this sinister club and has to try and fight back before they become just another kind of bargaining chip in their grand plan to build themselves better futures through demonic favor.
Excellent. Fantastic.
You probably knew I was going there, but like I wouldn't want to disappoint you with that.
I did want to bring up a bit of an anecdote because when I was younger, my brother and I both occasionally watched different animes on demand. My brother told me he had watched Ouran, and I was like, "Oh, how was it?" And he made up a different story in which Ouran was a demon that lived inside a dictator's head, and the main character was a person who used a key that can see people's minds and let the demon Ouran out into the world. So I thought I'd want to tell that on a video because I can't imagine where else it would ever come up.
That's a lot of fun. I really like that. Your brother did a good job there. See, Henry's are just good at horror.
Yeah, it's so funny that my brother shares your name.
Yeah, it's surreal. That is, for men of culture, that is, of course, the co-host of Philophilus.
Yes, Runaway 5, as he is also known.
Alright, sweet. Hit me with the next one.
These ones are going to get a little bit more difficult because they're a little bit more cutesy and wholesome.
I'll try my best. I love a challenge.
Strawberry marshmallow.
Strawberry marshmallow. Okay. So, this is about a lovely little local sweet shop that has the most wonderful sweets you've ever seen, and most delicious of all are their bright red strawberry marshmallows. But it doesn't taste like any strawberry you've ever tasted.
Ah,
And not every child who goes into this shop comes out with sweets. In fact, not every child comes out at all. And you never actually see the vans turning up with new supplies. New stock just seems to appear. And whenever you go in, you just see that smiling shop salesman standing behind the cashier, the cash register rather, drumming their fingers against the counter, looking you up and down, almost hungrily, like they're sizing you up. And they say to you, "Hey, you come in here a lot. You're a loyal customer, little boy. Let me tell you, we have the best sweets around the back. Come in for a second. Let me show you how I make them."
Oh,
That's strawberry marshmallow.
Well, alright, you've convinced me. Next up, I'm going to give you another maybe difficult one. Laid Back Camp.
Laid Back Camp, hosted by Geordie P.
Yeah, that's the opposite. That's a very intense camp.
Laid Back Camp. Oh, I thought of a horrible place this could go, but I'm not going to say that.
Oh! I think I connected with your mind for a second there.
Yeah, and
it's
I think
a scary
that's
place to be.
This should stay in our minds. All right, so Laid Back Camp is a summer camp where the whole thing is that it's the opposite of a sports camp. It's a chill camp. In particular, it's a place where kids with generalized anxiety disorder, kids who have had really rough experiences, they get sent to Laid Back Camp, especially kind of children who are in the foster system, children who had to be removed from abusive or just kind of toxic and dangerous households by Child Protective Services. They go to Laid Back Camp where they find slowly they are their worry kind of fades. They don't become anxious. They become, again, just calmer, more laid back, and then listless and apathetic, and then they start to forget things. The world seems strange and confusing as concepts they used to grasp become impossible. Even looking at people's faces, they just look like jumbles of features that they can't connect to names, because every single night when you go to sleep at Laid Back Camp, something there is siphoning the mental energy out of them. Something is feeding on the little sparks that pass through their neurons until little by little they kind of become husks. Horrifyingly, the big lake in the middle of camp, if you were to stick your head under the water there, you'd see hundreds of bodies, because that's where the counselors throw them when they're done, and the people running the whole operation just erase the files of these wayward kids, as though they never even existed. And our protagonists are people that realize this is going on and have to stop before not only their worries, but everything is taken from them by the real patron of Camp Laid Back.
Whew. All right, yeah, that's pretty good. I like how this is sort of a reverse of the last one, in that the title causes the disturbing thing, and then you, in this one, you say the thing, and then I get disturbed.
I'm gonna say, how are you feeling? You feeling a bit unnerved at all?
I'm doing all right. Some of these I'm really, well, let's just move on. There's another translated one. This one translates to My Love Story, but specifically with 2 exclamation points.
The genuinely, I'm having so many different ideas that could be this, but I'll throw the first one in, because this is a half-formed idea I've had knocking around in my head forever. Our main character is a relationship counselor. She's someone who just loves love, you know? And she's like, it's my duty to make sure that people can be in the healthiest, happiest relationships possible. Day in and day out, she has this seemingly unshakable faith tested by seeing these couples who just patently aren't right for each other. They're not truly in love. They shouldn't be together. And she sees the inevitability of their falling out. But what keeps her going is that she has these 2 friends who just seem like the perfect couple. She kind of lives vicariously through them almost. Like she sees them as her like fairy tale romance story, the justification that yes, true love does exist. And then one day they break up, and it kind of breaks her, because her whole philosophy was kind of built on the linchpin of these people proving that true love can exist. So she decides she's not going to let them. She is going to do the most radical form of relationship therapy ever. She is going to make their love story her love story. First person, my love story. She's going to capture them, and she is going to sew them together.
Yeah, you know, like you do.
Yeah, but she realizes, as she has sewn them into this one amalgamated being, that now that she considers them one person, she realizes that she didn't just love the idea of them together, she wanted to be with them, and she's fallen in love with this chimera that she's made of them, while they are desperately trying to pretend that they're in love with her as well, long enough for her to let her guard down and give them an opportunity to escape.
Whew, chilling, man. Chilling. Nice.
The Kevin's Top 7 special.
There we go. Next up, we've got I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying.
Okay. Alright, I've got it. This is someone who had a whirlwind college romance with the most charming person ever. They're like a kind of like sexy transfer student. He always like tells her of just the like lovely things they have back in like the home country. He like cooks meals for her native to this place, tells her like stories, and occasionally when he's like on the phone to like relatives and stuff, she hears him speaking, even though she doesn't speak the language, she doesn't understand it. And then eventually they get married, and he says to her, I want to have the honeymoon in my home country. I've spoken to you about it for so long. I want you to I want you to see what I've been talking about this whole time. And she finally starts like speaking to her friends about this. She's always been kind of an introverted person, but meeting this guy brought her out of her shell, She starts like speaking to her friends about it, and they say, but this country doesn't exist. I've never heard of this country, and I've never heard of this language either. Look, where did he say he was from? They can't find it on a map. They won't Google it. And they're beginning to realize that her husband may not be entirely human.
All right. Well, that works. That certainly works.
And whether that's because, it's like aliens, different dimension, it's like the Fae, and it's like a kind of, the space between spaces type stuff, that's up to you, but like...
I sort of immediately thought like either alien or like a vampire from like an old dead country.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, it's one of those things where just the uncertainty of it is creepy, but if you or like someone at home were to actually like take and do this, they could have the fun of like fleshing out what they think is the creepiest possibility.
What's your creepiest possibility? Comment it down below.
Yes. Yeah, no, genuinely, tell us. We want to hear. Give us your thoughts. Is what the fucking comment section is there for.
Exactly. Where is the husband from I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying Corrupt Edition from?
Yes.
Now, next up is How to Keep a Mummy.
Oh,
and that's mummy
fuck.
like Egyptian mummy.
It's gonna feel so lazy if I just make it an Egyptian mummy.
That's totally fine. I mean, there's mummies in other parts of the world, so...
True. No, do you know what? This is the first horror movie about Otzi the Iceman.
Whoa! Yeah, nobody's done that yet.
And the curse attached to him, because Meg and I were, like, researching him for a thing that I'm not allowed to speak about due to NDAs. But, yeah, no, Otzi the Iceman, if you don't know, this insane story of legitimately, like, a 4,000-year-old corpse being found on a mountainside. And because he was so well preserved, because he was, like, dried out and frozen, they've been able to find out, like, a freakish amount about him. But so many of the people involved in the, like, Otzi thing have died under, like, weird coincidental circumstances. And I think just this idea of, like, how to keep a mummy, which is about, like, the various, like, hands of, like, researchers that this mummy has passed through, causing, like, death and destruction in its wake.
Yeah, I could see that happening. And, like, that's... The Iceman is such an interesting, like, untapped well of horror concepts.
Yeah, it really... There was a fucking hitman called The Iceman. This guy, Richard Kuklinski, actually read his book. The book written by crime writer Philip Caro about him. But this guy, The Iceman, it turned out as well that, like, yeah, he did sincerely kill people. He's in jail for it. But he was apparently, like, a massive bullshitter as well. So in the book, like, said he'd done way many, like, cool mafia things, and he'd been, like, way more involved in, like, the mafia life than he really had been.
Oh, that's so funny. So he got exposed, and then it's like, oh, it turns out that all the stuff, his reputation was, like, bigger than he said it was, or bigger than, like, it actually was.
Yeah, like, he was still, like, a murderer and, like, a scary dude, but, like, people said that, like, oh, if you were to read his book, you'd think this man was the Forrest Gump of crime. Just, like, hopping from major event and, like, shaping different things. But no, he was just full of shit. And then he died, possibly from being poisoned in prison.
Well, there you go.
You learn things from these videos, don't you?
Exactly. All right, next up we've got Idol Master, and the A is an @ symbol. I should mention that.
It's so strange that some of these have, like, half-developed concepts that I've been working on before. Idolmaster is a thing about parasocial relationships, kind of idol culture, when people bring out this new kind of idol, like, Vocaloid or VTuber that becomes, like, immensely popular. People just sort of become obsessed with her. She becomes their idol master, so to speak. In particular, like a kind of Hellenistic muse, particularly connects with artists. Artists become obsessed with her, and they start, like, frantically, like, drawing her. Like, they find that they just feel so inspired. Again, the fake person, fundamentally, this VTuber, this Vocaloid, this symbol, but they keep drawing her. They just love her. She feels so real. But the more they draw her, the more pieces of fan art they create, they start to notice that they're getting sick. Wasting away almost, like losing weight, becoming skinny, becoming insubstantial, and they notice this, like, weird smell in their house. And even some people start dying, and it's written off as, like, how sometimes people, very tragic situation, become, like, obsessed with things, and, like, they kind of stop taking care of themselves, And, they'll have, like, heart attacks from, like, malnutrition, and a bunch of deaths like that happen. But they always find what's really weird is when people come to these houses where these deaths are happen, the front door is always left open, despite the fact that the person has died in the house. And the reason is...
I think I know where this is going.
As they are drawing her again and again, it is causing matter to disappear from their body and reconstitute into a kind of flesh homunculus of the idol in their home until she's taken so much that they die, at which point she just leaves as this thing that is extant now.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. That was Idolmaster.
Is that where you felt that was going?
I thought like, oh, they're losing like body mass and it's being transferred to like a weird corpse thing that's gonna like rise up and be its own living thing.
Ugh. Do you know what? Like, this shows what like my imagination is like. I'm gonna turn the light back on.
that's okay. I think you've absorbed enough power from the darkness.
Right, here's the thing. And you know why I turned the light back on? You know what I was saying about like worrying about a face pressed to the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
The other side of the room, I have a clothes horse with all these different coats on it. And I was just thinking, and it gives a real window into how my mind works. I thought, well, now that I've said it's a face at the window that's worried about, you know that a pair of hands is going to slide out between two of the coats and slowly pull them open. So you hear the slight squeak of the metal heads of the coat hangers on the top as this person who has been crouched there the whole time creeps up behind me, right as I'm talking into this very microphone.
Oh my god!
I've got to ask, did that sincerely get you?
I knew you were doing a bit. I've known you long enough to know that you were doing a bit.
People at home, did it get you? Let us know in the comments. Alright, so that is Idolmaster. What's next? Throw another haunch of meat into my cage, Gus.
Alright, this one is called Anohana, but when translated, it's the flower we saw that day.
I fucking love, like, Japanese titles. There's such poetry to them sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so the flower we saw that day is about a pair of young lovers who are having, like, a romantic stroll through like, some woods. And they happen upon this beautiful flower. It's gorgeous. It's spellbinding. It's like nothing they've ever seen before. And one of them plucks it and like gives it to the other as a sign of their love. And they take it home. And you know, sadly, you know what flowers do? They die eventually. Like, and especially, you know, considering you've plucked them, they're kind of on the clock at that point.
Right.
However, when that flower starts to die, the couple notices something strange. That night when they both, like, disrobe to take a shower, tattoos have started appearing on their body. Tattoos of the flower they saw that day. And little by little, it's starting, you know, like, people also know, you'll see, like, someone gets a little flower tattoo on their ankle, right?
Yeah.
But little by little, every single day when they wake up, the flowers are becoming, like, more complex and covering more and more of their body. Until, you know, their whole body just feels like this lattice of, like, stems and flowers. And it's like, you know, it's becoming a problem because it's even on, like, their faces and stuff now. But it's just this, you know, this absolute forest of flowers on them. And then one day, they notice there are eyes looking out from the dark between some of the stems. And they realize that every single night, from that point onwards, the eyes are getting a little bit bigger and a little bit closer. And then one night they feel this intense pain when the eyes are so big that they feel kind of the same size as their eyes. Like, whatever is there is right behind the flowers. And then they feel a scratching from the inside. And that's the flower we saw that day.
Right, yeah, you stare at the flower and the flower stares back. Right.
And then stares through you, and then you become a kind of gateway, I suppose.
Wow, there we go.
And every door opens eventually. Shouldn't have picked the fucking flower.
That's the thing. I love like horror stories where it's like all they did was pick a flower, and it just happened to this happened.
But that's the thing. They killed the flower.
Yeah.
So the flower killed them.
Exactly. It's
It's Junji Ito type thing, like the very simple morality tale.
exactly. It's like it's unfair by human standards, but we're just as alive as the flower was. No more, no less.
People at home, please write some of these, because if you don't, I definitely am.
Yeah, just like fan art of someone with like flower eye tattoos on their body is really cool. That seems really interesting.
Alright, so what's next?
Next up is Your Lie in April.
Immediately, again, I think I veer towards these kind of like frightening morality tales where, like you said, little mistakes can lead to like snowball into truly horrific consequences. I think Your Lie in April is about someone seeing someone getting victimized by someone else. Some kind of authority figure. Maybe it's their boss, maybe it's their parent, a teacher, a kind of respected local figure. And when push comes to shove, when they have the chance to, I guess, testify, so to speak, get true consequences for the victim, the person takes the cowardly approach, or just, they don't tell the truth, essentially. They cover for the person because they're afraid of the consequences it will have. And not long after, they find out that the person who was victimized killed themselves as a result of it because they felt trapped. They felt like no one was in their corner. No one would believe them and speak out on their behalf. The one thing this main character had the power to do. While the guilt is getting to them to begin with, the months the months roll on. They try to get to a sense of normalcy, and then they see a simple phrase written in their notebook that they don't remember writing, Your Lie in April. And little by little, they see this note written in different places that are getting harder and harder to avoid, places that can't be burned and turned away, like written on walls, scratched into the side of their car, and they swear sometimes they see movement in the corner of their eye before they see these messages, Your Lie in April, and they're beginning to realize that their sin of omission has much heavier consequences than they ever could have imagined.
Very nice. Very nice. Next up, we've got Is the Order a Rabbit?
Okay, this is where it gets challenging. Okay, alright, fuck. I've gone to a weird place with this, but are you ready?
Go for it. I'm ready for it.
This is a story about a butler for an obscenely rich individual. Well, not a butler, but like a servant or an assistant for an obscenely rich man. Years of devoted service. But they've always on some level resented the fact that, like, no matter how ingratiated they become, kind of Parasite style, they know that it won't be their world. And then, one day, the rich man dies. The assistant, is kind of distraught about it, thinking, oh, this is my job, gone. But they think, wait, maybe for just one night I can, take advantage of, like, some of the things this man had and live like he did, kind of cosplay him to an extent. He tries some fine wine around the house, like, takes a bubble bath, that kind of thing, but then, as he's trying on some of the guy's old clothes that weirdly fit him, he finds a business card in the breast pocket for a really fancy restaurant. Never even heard of it. Goes there, and he has to show them the card when he gets to the door to be let in. And he's shown this fine menu, and he's looking down it, and he sees a dish that has rabbit in it. It's in French, essentially, but he sees the word rabbit, and he recognizes that from French class. So when the waiter comes by, he orders that, and the waiter kind of cocks his head slightly and is like, are you sure? Is the order a rabbit? And the guy's like, yeah, I'm good for it. I'll have the rabbit. I'm an adventurous guy.
Mm.
And he's like, okay. And then shortly after, they bring out the kind of big, nice platter, and they pull, like, the lid off it, and he sees the burnt remains of a small human child.
Fuck, dude.
And he looks around the restaurant, and he notices the meals that everybody else are eating don't look like animal meat upon closer inspection. He's realized that he has inadvertently insinuated himself into this kind of hyper-rich, hyper-decadent restaurant where anything is on the menu, including human flesh. and what he just chose was code word for child.
Whoa, dude, that's awesome. Oh my god. Well, I mean, it's dark and scary, but like, man, that is like a really interesting concept for like a horror film.
Hell, we might end up rating it if no one else does.
Yeah, no, straight up.
Quick, end the video now. We're gonna go. Open final draft.
All right. So, the next one is new game, and this one has an exclamation point at the end.
Again, it's the same issue that you had in the Disturbing Movie Iceberg Wholesome Edition, which is the hardest ones are only the ones where there's so many ways you could do it.
Yeah, exactly.
New game, and I'm cribbing a little bit from our man Terry Miles here.
That's all right. Some of these can be derivative.
But again, it's one of those things where, like, it's taking some elements, but I think improving on it. New game is about, like, an online community, maybe a subreddit or something, that are obsessed with ARGs.
Ooh.
One day, like, these people who are, like, the top dogs of this community all receive like a different personal correspondence. These people who live on different corners of the globe. It's essentially like, hey, we hear you're like very good at these kind of things. So you're the kind of people we're looking for. We know everything about you. Here are some photos we've taken of you when you didn't know. Here is your address. We know everything about you. We've been watching you. You don't know who we are, but we know who you are. Here are the names of the other people we've sent this letter to. If you wish to be alive by the end of this game, all of them have to be dead. Good luck.
This sounds like a really good Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, it's a kind of, it's the classic death game genre, but done in a kind of like ARG or like Cicada 3-3 whatever context.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like, an open market for ARG-themed horror movies. I don't think we've seen a lot of those yet.
Well, the reason I mentioned Terry Miles is he has this series called... Terry Miles, by the way, in case you don't know, is the man, the myth, the legend behind Tannis.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Tannis.
And he has a satellite series called Rabbits, which, sorry, my personal opinion, isn't very good. It's about ARGs, but I don't think it actually fundamentally gets the appeal of ARGs.
Is the Order a rabbit?
Yes, the Order is a rabbit.
I see.
It's just kind of silly. But no, I think something like this that is basically an ARG that becomes like a paranoia-inducing, globe-trotting death game is really fun to me. Because, like, there's something about, like, these Battle Royale type things, they're always somewhat confined. This idea that these people all across the world have to, like, go to different places and, like, kill these people because if not, other people will take the initiative and come to them, I think is quite a fun way of doing it. Like, there's no arena, there's no facility, there's no, like, place they're trapped in. The world is the stadium for this game.
Though airports are the scariest place possible in this game.
I mean, and they're already really scary.
Yeah.
I hate airports.
For sure.
But yeah, so that's that. That's new game.
Excellent. Next up, we've got The Hentai Prince and the Stony Cat.
Dear God. All right. This is a bleak, disturbing, psychological serial killer horror based on the Japanese Otaku Killer and the American Son of Sam. This kind of weird, perverted NEET who has been, like, indulging in darker and darker shit, like level 7 iceberg shit.
Nice. Yeah. Oof.
And is slowly, like, just becoming more and more depraved. One day, he has the hallucination of this kind of demonic cat made of stone telling him it's time to make the fantasies real. And it's gonna tell him how to, like, essentially, it's this either hallucination or demonic manifestation of this, like, demonic stone cat is telling him to kill and live his perverse hentai fantasies on unwitting victims.
I like how your version is basically like the dark, gritty reboot of the actual plot of the show.
Oh my... What? Okay. Tell me, I've got to know how...
This is the only one that I'll like describe because I think it's maybe more obscure and people might not have heard of it. It's this guy who he has this complex about how like he's secretly a pervert and people like him because he's not open about it. And one day he's like
some of the commenters in our Monster Girl
yeah,
videos.
yeah, he's like, you know, if people knew who I really was, they probably like wouldn't like me as much. So I kind of hate being fake. And he prays to this like stony cat in a shrine, and then as a result, he loses his like filter, and he becomes openly perverted. He's like, oh no, I have to reverse this curse.
That is so funny, because I had no fucking idea, but the fact that mine is literally that, but with murder, that is really funny.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, again, inspired by the David Berkowitz thing of he like lied and said that like a demon dog told him to kill people, like, and the otaku killer being that guy who I showed you with the fucking like Nosferatu hands.
Yes, yeah, his hands are so scary.
Yeah, look up Japanese otaku killer hands if you want something scarier than anything I've brought up in this video.
Yeah, those are horrifying. Speaking of horrifying and scary, next up we've got Joss Whedon presents Rent-A-Girlfriend. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant Rent-A-Girlfriend.
Jesus. So this is a story about Joss Whedon.
Oh, I'm scared already.
This one is actually set in Japan.
Okay.
And it's based on the Family Romance Corporation, which is a company where you can hire actors to essentially like pretend to be people in your life.
Yeah.
And this kind of like really quite charming dude hires this company and has a woman be his like fake girlfriend for an evening date. And he says like in advance, like, look, well, obviously I'm going to keep it professional. Like, I won't, like, make any physical contact with you or anything. This is just to, like, keep up some appearances. And he says, like, I want you to, as well, like, tell them this, like, really nice story about, like, what we did last weekend together. And, like, how we saw, like, this movie and stuff and, like, had this really nice date. And she's like, yeah, fair enough. She's a professional. She's an actor at the end of the day, just trying to make her way in the world. And she goes and tells this story. And she later finds out the person she was actually telling this story to was someone who was investigating the man who had hired her. And little does she know, she was just his alibi.
Oh, that's good. Ooh.
And now, she's the loose end that he needs to cut.
Oh, man. I like that a lot. That's cool.
Yeah, that's just what came to mind. Admittedly, it's a bit more thriller than horror, but I think in the execution you could definitely have quite horror elements. With, like, you know, her slowly realizing that this man is clearly, like, a very, like, intelligent, calculating psychopath.
He, as a villain, he could, like, sell this as a horror movie.
Yeah, like, I'm very much picturing just this kind of, like, this very suave, very, like, holds all the cards, like, someone who is dangerous just because they are so genuinely charismatic that, like, you believe this person can, like, manipulate people. And this poor, like, female, like, Japanese actor has got to contend with the fact that, like, she is now on this person's shit list, and she's also worried about coming out with the truth in case people assume that she is actually culpable.
Well, what's incredible about this is that, like, the actual way that this conflict could manifest is that in a sense, they're both actors. She's a professional actor, and he's a natural, like, blend into society actor.
Yeah, and I like this idea that perhaps the way that she stops him from, like, immediately killing her is she turns the tables and starts, like, posting everywhere, oh, this is my new boyfriend.
Yeah!
And stuff like that, so that if she turns up dead, immediately he'll look super sus.
Yeah, oh my god.
And it becomes this battle of wits where these people need to have this fake relationship where she's very mindful of the fact that the whole time he's figuring out how to kill her.
Oh my god.
And it's all like mind games.
Gone Girl could never. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, it is kind of Gone Girl-esque of just like this couple keeping up appearances, but ultimately they're not really a couple. They are one person who is trying to murder the other, and the other person who is trying to, like, box this criminal in a way that they couldn't kill her without it immediately being obvious it's him.
That's awesome.
And she's, throughout this whole thing, trying to figure out, okay, like, how can I, like, stop this guy for good? Because I know he's, like, an intelligent dude, and this thing isn't going to hold forever. So it's like a kind of race against time thing.
That's awesome.
All the while they're going on fake dates and shit.
That's great. That's great. I like it. It's like it could really be a dark romantic comedy at the end of the day.
I legitimately, the funny thing is, I could see this as, like, an anime or, like, a kind of, like, obscure but, like, cult favorite manga.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This feels like it needs to exist. On a wildly different note, the next one is, how heavy are the dumbbells you lift?
I've heard of this. Vaguely, and I can't remember how.
It's pretty great. It takes place in the same universe as like a very violent fighting manga by the same author.
Okay, alright. This is proper, like, pulpy Resident Evil style stuff. This is a kind of, like, you know, like a buddy survival horror thing? This is, like, a buddy survival horror thing between, like, a hardcore lesbian gym girl and, like, a himbo bodybuilder trying to fight their way out of and survive in their local gym after everyone else has become infected by a, like, bad batch of anabolic steroids that turns people into monsters.
I fucking love it.
And they're the only two that weren't juicing.
Oh.
So everyone else has turned into monsters, and they need to use their rockin' bods and their, like, friendship to fight their way out. Lots of, like, monsters getting, like, smashed with barbells.
This is like the Predator handshake, the movie.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that's what it is. Just these big fucking buff, like, psycho rage zombies, and these two having to, like, team up and fight their way out.
I love this because it's just so poetic. It's like, don't juice. Natural muscle is always worth working for.
Yeah, exactly. Because ultimately, if you juice, it'll fuck you up.
Yeah, it's, that's awesome.
That's another one that, like, fuck, we should make this if someone else doesn't. And again, no hard feelings if you make it. Just please credit us. It'd be
Exactly.
nice.
But, like, the idea of a multi-level gym with all the equipment as, like, the site of a zombie, like, uprising, like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and think of all the different, like, both the kind of really interesting, like, environments with the different equipment in gyms, but, like, picture, for example, them having to sneak through one of the rooms where they have, do you know the lunk alarm?
No.
It's this thing they have in gyms where there are pressure sensors on the floor so that if anyone drops a weight, an alarm goes off, and it's meant to, like, shame people so they don't drop weights and damage the equipment on the floor. But they can be wildly too sensitive sometimes. Like, people have, like, made videos of, like, people, like, dropping pens and it, like, setting off the lunk alarm. But imagine these two, a sequence where, like, the monsters are around the room, but they haven't spotted them yet, and they need to sneak through this room without setting off the incredibly sensitive lunk alarm and, like, driving the monsters into a frenzy again.
I think that, like, the climax of this could be, too, that, like, you know, this new, like, you know, bad steroid that's turning people into zombies is in a bunch of other gyms, but maybe, like, the two main characters come to the conclusion that, like, if we, like, kill all the zombies in this building, we stop the uprising here and, like, keep this town safe.
Yeah, like, we could worry about the rest later.
It's an interesting self-contained plot of, like, these two swole heroes protecting the entire world.
Yeah, and you know this movie would be easy to fund because you could put so much product placement in it.
Oh,
like,
you're
you know this
so
would be
right.
after they defeat the zombies, them, like, walking out into, like, the sunset and, like,
Gatorade the movie.
like, sighing and then, like, victoriously lifting up a bottle of Gatorade from the vending machine and swigging it as the sun rises in the background.
Oh my god. Yeah, put all your sponsorships in this movie. This sounds awesome.
Because the funny thing is, it wouldn't even, like, all this product placement in this context wouldn't even feel crass, because that's just what gyms are like.
Exactly!
Because you could just outfit, like, the main characters in, like, sportswear, fucking branded to shit, different cool exercise equipment. Because the fact is, people would see this movie and they would think, well, fuck, I want to be as, like, swole and, like, I want to be someone who would survive this situation. Yeah. And maybe the way by doing that is by drinking Gatorade, buying this sports equipment,
exactly,
and using all these different machines. Michael Bay produces, of course.
One of those, someone's got to pick up one of those big Planet Fitness palm hands and smash someone into the wall.
Yes. And I just love this idea of, like, the how heavy are the dumbbells you lift thing. Like, is this quick conversation they're having about, like, pick one of those up. Do you reckon we can cave a head in with it?
Ah! Yeah.
Like, quick, how heavy are the dumbbells you lift? Throw one over.
That's, okay, this is sick.
I love every single one of these. We have one idea that we're just like, oh, this is sick. Last one, it was fucking Archivos de Morte.
Yes! Oh, yeah, exactly.
And now it's this.
Holy shit. All right. Next up is Servant X Service.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Because I know this is varied and I know it's quite a contentious topic. What is the actual cultural meaning of the X in the, like, anime context? Because I know you get, like, Hunter x Hunter, different things. Like, what does the X actually mean? Just to give me some context.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know the answer.
Fair enough, because I've always wondered, you know?
I don't know. It breaks things up. The weird thing about Hunter x Hunter, for example, is that that's actually how you're supposed to pronounce it. It's, the X is
Fair.
silent. So it's there, I guess, as, like, kind of a thing to make the logo look cool or, like, make the title pop. But, yeah, I don't know why there's so much X.
I'll tell you what. This one is the complete opposite of the, like, ordering a rabbit one. This is a home invasion horror of someone who, like, lets, like, a butler or a maid go after they were, like, I don't know, stealing from them or something. This butler or maid who knows all the ins and outs of the house has come back for bloody revenge.
Ooh, that's good. I like that.
And the whole thing is, like, it's a mix of, like, there's an element of the main character realizing that they should have treated their employees better, while also the horror of realizing, like, the real danger of someone you very much depended on suddenly having violent intentions towards you. Because that's the thing, like, there isn't an inch of your home that, like, a good servant wouldn't know.
Yeah, they may even know it better than you, which is the scary part.
And that's the frightening part. You don't know what they could do, and I think that would make for a really interesting dynamic for a home invasion where they actually know the home better than the person being invaded and can turn the environment to their advantage.
It could even overlap with, like, sort of a parasite thing where, like, the family living in the house doesn't know about a section of the house where, like, maybe the person who got let off never left.
Yeah, and is now thinking, I'm just gonna, like, Black Christmas style, I'm just gonna kill them all.
Yeah.
Because you can picture the scene, again, so Black Christmas, but, like, the survivor finding this secret part of the house where the body parts or, like, bodies of the rest of their family who have been killed throughout the night are stacked or, like, hung up on hooks or whatever.
Totally.
And realizing, like, Jesus Christ, how long has this been going on?
All right, next up we've got A Place Farther Than the Universe.
I've heard of that one. Is that the one where, like, a bunch of, like, students go on, like, a volunteer trip to the Antarctic?
Yep, that's the one.
That seems like quite a sweet premise. Yeah. But anyway, I'm not gonna go with the Antarctic just because it's a little too easy. A Place Further Than the Universe, it's got to be cosmic horror.
I was hoping. I was hoping that you would.
Do you know what? This is gonna be, like, this would be something that would only exist as prose. I envision it being one of those classic, like, Ray Bradbury style speculative things. This essentially, like, fleet of incredibly advanced spacecraft have entered your universe and are coming towards your solar system. And, like, when they arrive at your planet, after, you know, you hope these things coming in these, like, inconceivable, like, shuttles of Cumbrian peace, but, like, they are, like, warlike monsters. They subjugate, they exterminate, they essentially, like, ruin your planet. And then at the end, you find out that this is taking place in a different universe, and these are humans that have come and destroyed everything.
Yeah, I see why that can only be prose, but that's damn effective.
Yeah, just because I think just this idea of, like, just some alien refugee whose whole family has been exterminated, just, like, weeping in rage at the foot of an American flag sticking out of their soil.
That's so fucking metal, dude. All right, next up we got Sweetness and Lightning.
Ooh, Sweetness and Lightning. Shame I already blew the evil sweet shop.
Yeah.
Alright, sweetness and lightning. Fuck, this is the hardest one. This
Yeah.
is the hardest one I've had so far.
It's the most like wholesome sounding.
Okay, alright, I'm going full fucking weird Junji Ito with this one.
Do it up.
Someone was having a picnic one day. They are like out in a field alone, and then against all odds, they are literally hit with like a bolt from the blue. Like lightning strikes them, despite there being like no kind of clouds above. They wake up in the hospital. They kind of like, the doctor tells them like how lucky they are to be alive and how strange it is, but they notice they've got this strangely kind of sickly sweet taste in their mouth. And they're like, hey, you know, have I been like intubated or anything? Like, have you been like feeding me something while I've been out? And they're like, no, you haven't actually been out that long, so we haven't really needed to like drip feed you or anything. Like, they're strange. And they like explain the symptoms. And they're like, oh, you know, this is strange. It could be like diabetes or something. I guess we'll screen you for it. We'll do tests in the coming days, but I can't see what that'll have to do with the lightning strike. And the character also notices like a weirdly sweet smell as the day goes on. But, you know, they say, okay, you need bed rest, go to sleep. And they feel this weird thing in the night. And they wake up and they see a nurse, like, quickly running out of the room as they wake up. And they look down and they see something weirdly sticky on their arm. And it's like, wait, is that saliva? Was the nurse licking me?
Oh.
And essentially what happens is, little by little, anyone around this main character begins to just compulsively try to eat them.
Oh my god. This is like that Chocolate Man Axe body spray commercial, but like playing for horror.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's the kind of I Am Legend thing, because the fact is, it's one of these situations where the only solution is die, because the alternative is killing everyone who ever gets close to you, because if you don't, they will eat you.
Wow. Yeah, that is very Junji Ito-esque.
Yeah, because it's just a horrible, degenerative thing happening to a person for no good reason.
Yeah.
But hell, that happens all the time in life. It's called disease, and it's scary as fuck.
Exactly. Alright, next we've got March Comes In Like a Lion.
Full disclosure, I don't think I'm doxing by saying this, because it's pretty vague, but I actually live in a town called March. Spooky.
Will it be about the town?
No, just trivia for anyone who is really thinking, oh shit, well I've narrowed him down to the country, but I want to get more specific.
How will I be able to eat him if I don't find him?
Yeah, it's my dream. Alright, so, do you know what this one is about? This is about it's a terrifying jilted lover story. It's someone goes through a bad breakup with someone they really don't even know that well, but the person takes it really badly. And then one night, this person like runs up and attacks the main character and like sedates them. And when they wake up, they're in an empty zoo at night, and the lion is out. The ex they pissed off is a kind of deranged, jilted zookeeper.
And put them in the lion enclosure.
Yeah.
Or put them in the zoo and let the lion out.
And release the lion.
Whoa.
Because, again, they figure that this is the kind of thing where the lion's not going to leave much leftovers. And yeah, maybe they'll kill the lion afterwards, but it'll just seem like some weirdo snuck in at night and let the lion out, and they got eaten for it. And now the main character is essentially in a slasher movie, but the slasher's a fucking lion in an empty zoo at night.
I actually think that this character is the zookeeper from D-War, because he described the cobra as looking at him like his ex-wife, and maybe this is what he did to his ex-wife.
Very possible. Oh, do you know how this fucking movie ends? So I think this like zookeeper shithead has like Jigsaw style. They've been in the control room the whole time. They've been watching on monitors. They'll speak over the PA system to taunt sometimes. Because they're this, like, sick little fucking incel shithead.
It's a little bit like P2. Like, you've seen that movie? That Christmas
P2?
Christmas classic. It's
I don't think I have.
it's a movie in which like a woman gets trapped in like the parking garage because the guy running it has like a weird crush on her and is like keeping all the doors locked and trapping her there on Christmas.
But I've never seen that. That sounds terrifying. I'm actually going to look into that after this.
It is.
But I just thought this has got to end with like her victoriously like smashing through the glass of like the office room with like some kind of club or something she's picked up. The guy's like, so big whoop, you survived. What are you going to do now? Kill me? She goes, no, but he will. And then the lion jumps through and gets the zookeeper guy.
Yeah! All right. That's awesome.
As she, like, walks away, like, cool guys don't look at explosions style, while the fucking zookeeper is ripped limb from limb in the background.
Yeah. Okay, so this next one might be the easiest one I've given you this entire time. You ready for it?
Go on.
I want to eat your pancreas.
Believe it or not, I know about this one. Because it's one that, like, I discovered back when, Okay, so fun fact about me, I for the people at home, Gus already knows this, I had a real period of, like, suffering from genuinely, like, extremely severe health anxiety that manifested in a, like, near delusional, like, obsession with disease. And if I'm not mistaken, this is one where the like main female character in it is like dying of pancreatic cancer. Isn't it?
It's a very like tragic story.
Yeah, so this was a thing where when I found it, like knew of it at the time, I was like, Jesus Christ, I could never watch this because it would like be so like intensely triggering for me. But like I'm not in that time anymore, so yeah, good for me.
And in the context of turning this into a horror premise, this title seems tailor-made for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just the weird thing is, like, I think it's so strange to have this one because, like, for me, this is such a horror premise.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I'm obviously not going to turn it to, this can just stay as itself.
I mean, there's a mixture of, more serious ones, less serious ones, more like sad coming-of-age stuff throughout this.
You've done a great job selecting these. All right, so I want to eat your pancreas. Fuck, do you know what this is? This is... much how the other one was an edgy remake of itself, this is a really, like, dark and quote-unquote, like, more, like, well, not more realistic, but, like, more gritty version of Venom.
Ooh.
Where our main girl has some kind of horrific parasite that is going to eat her internal organs. And the only way for it to not do it, like this sort of like tapeworm type thing that needs to feed on human flesh, is for her to fill her stomach with human flesh that the tapeworm can feed on. So she is kind of forced to become a cannibal to stop the tapeworm parasite thing eating her from within. And again, this has been done before, but like I think it's that trope of horror hunger, which Meg really loves as well, that, like, I think when done right, has endless applications.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you went with the person themselves is facing off against this parasite that may not be anthropomorphized. It's not like a monster or a killer that wants to eat her pancreas. It's a thing inside of her.
It's just an animal, effectively.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to do it.
It's me transposing some of the original elements that I find so, like, terrifying. And the same with, like, the, like, person becoming, like, the sweet thing. I think what's so terrifying about things like disease or the fictional, version of disease, which is to say curses, is that they themselves have no malice, no ill will, and generally no logical reason to strike you. They just do, and they fuck you up, and they don't even think about it, because most of the time they literally can't think, but, like, that's your life, and that's you, this living, thinking, sentient being, is killed and destroyed by this thing that you cannot possibly reason with.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a fantastic vector for, like, true horror, because it's true to life.
Yeah, because, like, even the most terrifying serial killer is still a mortal man that can be on some level reasoned with, and if not, at least fought and killed.
Yeah. All right. Next, we've got Violet Evergarden.
Violet Evergarden. This is another one that I've, like, massively heard of, but I cannot for the life of me recall its actual plot.
Well, that's good, because you're making a new one from scratch.
Yes, alright. So, I'm immediately going to go in a really weird direction, and I'm going to commit to whatever this gives to me. Violet Evergarden is an actual name.
Ah.
Like, first name Violet, second name Evergarden.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say... I'm completely improv this thing by thing. She's the last of the Evergarden line. Maybe they're quite an aristocratic family. I see this as kind of a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the... you can picture the Evergarden estate.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
On, you know, the outskirts of town. And Violet, the sickly child, so named for her little garden full of violets. I think this is going to be a girl in kind of late Victorian England reckoning with the horrors of British imperialism.
Like her family's sins?
Yes, because her family made a fortune through exploiting China during the Opium Wars, and as a result, she has now been cursed with a... I'm trying to... How do you pronounce it? Is it a Jiangshi?
Jiangshi,
Yeah, the hopping ghost.
The hopping vampire, yeah.
Yeah, she has been cursed with one of those. She feels this sense of like, oh, this isn't fair because I wasn't the one to, like, commit these atrocities, but it's still coming after her because every privilege she enjoys in life came as a result of the atrocities her ancestors committed.
That's really neat. And you mentioned she was sickly.
And she's the last one to be punished.
Yeah, and you mentioned that she was, like, sickly, too, so it's interesting, like, maybe even her ability to, like, live past infancy was a result of her parents' wealth.
Yeah, which came directly from the exploitation and murder of Chinese people. It's both this... It's a weird mix of things, because you get in the classic Victorian ghost story with the settings, which is, you know, it's an institution, but you're throwing in the kind of unsung, cool monster with the Jiangshi, and on top of that, you're getting, I would argue, some important thematic stuff about the genuinely monstrous things the British Empire has done, and how the impacts of that still echo forward into today.
Exactly. And I think you'd be in the right place to write it, considering you hail from that country.
I genuinely have, like, a degree of, like, actual tangible guilt just knowing, like, the genuinely monstrous things that my country has done. And it's why I have such, like... I have a very complicated... I won't go too far into this in this video, but, like, I have a very complicated relationship with the idea of, like, national pride. Because I'm like, Jesus, man, like, really, what do we have to be proud of? Like, the fucking monstrous things. Like, this country was the world's supervillain for hundreds of years, and it's like, it's a whole thing.
Don't worry, buddy. I'm American. We'll catch up with you. We'll commit enough atrocities that someday yours will look like a drop in the pan.
Yeah, you'll get there, because we're in our lame duck period.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't do as much these days.
We're hungry for it. We're all about that atrocity.
Exactly. You can bump those numbers up. Anyway, alright, so yeah, that's Violet Evergarden.
Next up is Monthly Girls Nozaki-Kun, and Nozaki-Kun is a male name.
Oh, fuck. Alright, so this guy is this is another kind of concept I've had knocking around in my mind. This guy is a Bluebeard serial killer who is like a womanizer, like a kind of pickup artist, but he's never been caught, and he has a very unique power. He can compel love out of people, like, to the point of obsession and devotion that they'll do anything for him. But this very act hurts the person, and after about a month of sustained use, they just kind of drop dead.
Whoa. Okay.
So as a result, he's this man he's basically, like, he's a guy who has got this power, and his personality makes him the absolute worst person to have it. Because he's this kind of, like, uses women for their bodies type thing. Like, only about sex and transactional relationships. Like I said, like a proper, like, fucking pickup artist type guy. And he is using his terrifying abilities to have no strings attached relationships where he knows, hell, the girl will be dead by the end of the month. What does it matter? I'll just find a new one. And I'm thinking,
This reminds me of there was like this manga villain from this really like I don't even know what happened to it. There was a manga that was like hot for a small period of time called Jigan, where people were like turning into monster versions of their innermost desires, and there was one guy whose concept was kind of like this.
I mean, I'm just terrified by pickup artists in general, and I think I was reading an SCP a while back, which was a book on being a pickup artist that teached you like rituals you can perform to like make people love you. But I think there's something so scary to me about this guy who just has this inherent power to make people do it, like one person at a time, granted. But I think what would be really interesting is if perhaps this is one of those movies where it's kind of dual focus, where this guy is our kind of evil main character, but our good main character is have you ever had like a friend get into a relationship and you're like, oh god, they're not good for you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've seen that
like
happen.
not out of the weird nice guy like, oh, I should be with you, but just out of like, no, this person is bad news.
out of the like, yeah, please get away from this person. They're ruining your life.
Yeah, just love yourself type thing. I think the main character is like the female friend of a woman who is currently in the thrall of this guy, and always knew that he was bad news, but is beginning to realize that he's like really, really bad news, and like figures out his like connection to these other girls who have like mysteriously dropped dead in the past, and her whole thing is trying to figure out a way to get him out of the picture before her friend dies. But little does she know there's the terrifying element of he's actually taken a shine to her, and when the month is up, he plans to switch focus.
Okay, I've already bought a ticket, man. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I love this sort of shit.
Like some of my favorite ones we've come up with tonight are the ones that have these like weird like mind games, like the Rent a Girlfriend one.
Yeah, like oh my god, like I feel like we got to write a script that has this sort of dynamic.
At least one of these.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we've got Lucky Star. It's a famous one.
Lucky Star, okay. Fuck, do you know what this one is about? Because I've never seen this before, but I think it's such a cool idea. This is a movie about a haunted casino.
Ooh.
Called The Lucky Star.
Whoa, yeah, I've never seen that either.
And it draws in, like, it's sort of like Butcher's Block, Shining style, draws in gambling addicts.
Oh, man.
And kind of gambles them to death and then takes their soul.
Damn.
And it's up to this main character to beat their gambling addiction and in the process break the spell of and escape the Lucky Star.
Dude, the one time I've ever seen anything remotely like this plot, it was like in the first book of Percy Jackson, and it was parodying the Lotus Eaters. Yeah, I like this sounds lit. Casinos are like an untapped well of they're basically only in heist movies.
Yeah, so they're basically The Shining, but in a casino, and it's about gambling addiction rather than alcoholism.
That's so cool. I also...
Because Vegas is such an inherently kind of sleazy, creepy space beneath the glitz, and I think having this, like, you know, this is a guy who, because he's lost so much money and doesn't pay back, his credit ain't worth shit anywhere else. No other casino will take him, but the Lucky Star welcomes him with open arms. Little does he know, the Lucky Star hasn't been open in 40 years.
Oh my god. And the kind of games and the kind of like upper floors and upper echelons you could get in a supernatural casino, like what are you betting? What is the game that's being played? Like there's already so many intense gambling shows out there.
Yeah, you can get some like Death Parade and like Kaiji Ultimate Survivor type shit in there.
Yeah.
And I think as well, just that there is a story that horrifies me of the fact that, like, I read a Cracked article about, like, just horrible things about casinos. Because they're so designed to, like, upset your sense of time, people spend so long in there. People have, like, who worked at casinos have anonymously told story of, like, people who just stand, like, in front of, like, the slot machines, and they're literally just, like, soiling themselves, and not even noticing, because they just have to keep playing.
Yeah, see, this is perfect for horror. I think that, yeah, this would be really cool.
And that's Lucky Star.
Awesome. Okay. Love Live.
Love Live.
Yes. There's also the optional subtitle of School Idol Project on this one.
I'm gonna remove... Actually, no. Tell you what. Oh, this is horrible.
Okay.
Love Live, what was it? School Idol?
Project. School Idol Project.
It's The Truman Show, played for horror, and it's a high school girl.
Oh, and like everyone's like, you're an idol, you're like a big star, but it's like the world that she's in is completely fake.
Well, what I think it is like, she is someone who, in her mind, is just this normal high school girl trying to live life, and like, frequently gets into romantic issues, but she doesn't know that she is like a massive celebrity outside of that, Truman Show style. Imagine horrifying like shipping discourse around like the fans of this like real... Here's where I think it gets freaky, and here's where it goes from like Truman Show, which is already pretty horrifying, to real horror. The studio starts to see ratings dip, so they decide, hey, maybe what'll get people back in is a downward spiral arc. And they start orchestrating basically the degradation and destruction of this girl's life for the entertainment of the people at home.
This is great, but it's a shame that we can't get Satoshi Kon's Ghost to direct it.
Yeah, genuinely, like, oh, fucking Satoshi Kon. What a king.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great
yeah.
filmography.
He would take something like this and turn it into, like, true transcendent art. But yeah, just this idea of, like, can I give you an example of just one thing that, like, comes to mind?
Oh, absolutely.
Them, like, essentially microdosing, like, in secret, the girl with heroin, and then having a, like, character, like, a drug dealer character in it offer her, like, to buy some heroin to kind of start a dramatic addiction plotline, knowing that she's already going to be, like, into it.
Whoa.
Because they've seeded the addiction to begin with.
That's so crazy. Yeah, because she wouldn't know why she's compelled to buy the heroin.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Because she doesn't know it. She's getting minor withdrawal symptoms already, and she just knows when she takes this stuff, it goes away and she feels good again. But you know that kind of, like, that thing that became a meme because it was just so horrifying? That, like, metamorphosis thing?
Oh, yes, that
manga?
yeah.
Basically, just this idea of this girl has to figure out what's going on and escape before the, like, hack producers that control her life
recreate metamorphosis as her life.
Yeah, with her life, because they think, as, you know, hack idiot producers, that it'll be an exciting plotline.
Yeah. I can see this.
And it's horrible. I can see it, but I wouldn't want to. This is the kind of thing where, unless it has, like, a very happy, cathartic ending, it's one of those things that you would watch and then just feel empty for the rest of the day.
It might even be one of those things I wouldn't watch.
Yeah, no, potentially. It's one of those things where you hear the plot and you're like, do you know what? I respect that it exists, but not me.
I think that one has the potential to veer onto the other iceberg.
Yeah, no, that's getting in, like, level 3, level 4 kind of thing.
Alright, so... there is one final anime, and I've saved the scariest one for last. I want you to take this one home once you hear the title.
Okay.
My Little Sister Can't Be This Cute.
Oh, no.
I had to save it for the end. I had to. I couldn't put that at the beginning. You have to believe me.
The horror story is that exists and people watch it. But no.
Genuinely.
Alright, so something has come to mind. Would you like me to tell you it?
I think we're well enough into the video that you can.
This one is, I'll give you, it's genuinely disturbing.
Alright. Let's go for it. Tell me about it.
Hannibal inspiration on
Tell
this.
me about it, Pat Back.
You'll regret it afterwards. So, the main character realizes he is getting, like, violent, murderous sexual fantasies about his younger sister. He's horrified by these because he loves her, like, as a sister. But he's thinking, like, Jesus Christ, I can feel it. One of these days I'm gonna slip. And he decides what he's gonna do is come clean to his sister about it. And he gets her into this room and says, like, look, I feel this intense desire to, like, hurt you very badly, maybe even kill you, because I feel compelled. I feel like I need it. And what he thinks is going to be a confession in that moment becomes something so much worse. Because he says, you love me, don't you, right? You don't want any of this to happen. What I'm going to need you to do is start bringing your friends over.
Oh!
It doesn't need to be all of them. Just, like, pick your least favorite to begin with. And we'll only do it when I feel like I'm in danger of, like, doing this to you again. And each time it's, like, it works to begin with, and it's slowly kind of traumatizing her. But the scary thing dawns on him that one day he's gonna need the genuine article. And it's a real question of whether she'll have figured out a way to escape by then.
Well, yeah. All right. You didn't blow it.
You gave me a creepy thing, so I made a creepy
There we
thing.
go. There we go. A more honest one.
Yeah, it's true. The more honest one, that like this isn't a charming, cute moe. This is horrible.
Yeah.
And that's as horrible as it would be.
Exactly.
But like, it's so funny. Well, it feels less funny saying it now, I'll admit. But before this recording, Gus and I watched the start of our iceberg video, and we were like, "Oh man, those trigger warnings, like so many." And I said to Gus, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be able to put just as many on this one."
You didn't lie. You didn't lie.
There will be a respectably sized trigger warning page on this.
And just think, you know, the last one, the world generated that. Like, that was what was in the iceberg. But this one, this is all you, man. You did it yourself. And you should be proud.
Yeah, no, honestly, that, like, last nasty one aside, I've thoroughly enjoyed this experience, and I, like, of course, as I've said ad nauseum throughout the video, if any of these speak to you, people watching this, make it, and then show us it, because fuck yeah, we love creativity, but, like, genuinely, I want to make some of these, and I imagine after this recording ends, Gus and I are probably going to discuss that.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for joining me on this journey, Gus. I've ended up really enjoying this, and fantastic work on anime selection.
Exactly. And before we go, I just want to, like, give props to Henry Galley, because as someone who's, like, not very much of a big horror buff, it's always fascinating to discuss with someone who's, like, what I consider a true patrician of the genre, someone who knows their stuff, someone who, like, is really clearly so dedicated to it, and, like, in everything they write, they find a way to, like, bring it back to the truly horrifying and scary. And I love it, and I appreciate it, and without him, this video would not be possible.
You honor me, Mr. Zagarella. And last thing before we go, if you have anything else you'd like us to make wholesome or make fucked up, let us know, because, frankly, I'd be eager to do another one of these in either format.
Exactly. Subscribe. We will always be doing weird, creative, strange things, rearranging previous ideas and adding our own spin to them. And you can get more of that right here or on any of these playlists that have shown up.
Yeah, subscribe or the man will be pressing his face up against your window soon too.
And he'll get you.
Goodbye.
Bye.